Hello, I'm Matt Jordan. Thank you for allowing us to share information with you about preventing accumulations of fats, oils, and grease in the wastewater collection system. Your partnership with the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority is important for the protection of the environment and prevention of service interruptions. Working together, implementing the best management practices identified in this video will help to ensure a vibrant local economy, preserve the quality of life within the region, and protect the environment. Thank you for the work you do every day, and thank you for partnering with us to protect our precious natural resources.
To ensure the continued high quality of life in the region, the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority employs environmental compliance officers who perform inspections and make sure customers are in compliance with the rules and regulations. It is this group's responsibility to make sure that everyone is complying not only with the authority ordinances, but EPA standards and other laws as well. The primary responsibility of the officers is to help protect the environment and the public water supply. This is accomplished through regular monitoring, testing, inspections, and consumer education. All permitted food service establishments are inspected on a regular basis by a compliance officer to, among other things, ensure that the grease interceptor or trap is operating properly and is in compliance with the authority's ordinance. This educational video serves as a best management practice tool and is for food service establishments such as restaurants, food preparation or catering facilities, schools and institutional cafeterias, and retirement facilities. It is to help prevent excessive amounts of fats, oils, and grease from entering the sewer system and potentially causing problems which can result in costly sewer blockages and overflows. It is a part of the authority's commitment to promoting community education and environmental stewardship. Fats, oils, and grease, commonly referred to as fog, accumulates on the walls of sewers just as cholesterol accumulates in a person's arteries. Accumulated fog inside the sewer's piping restricts the flow of wastewater through the sewer system, allowing for further buildup of fog and collection of other debris. If too much fog accumulates on the walls, the sewers clog and overflow. The release of untreated wastewater can endanger public health and harms the environment. In addition, sewer overflow cleanup can be costly to both the customer and the utility company. Using highly sophisticated camera equipment, trained personnel can look inside clogged sewers to determine why they clogged. A major cause of sewer blockages are from fats, oils, and grease. Fog accumulation comes from numerous sources. A major source is food service establishments. To help minimize the amount of fog entering the wastewater collection system, food service establishments are required to have grease traps or grease interceptors, which are usually located downstream from the kitchen. Grease interceptors capture food scraps and grease that pass through dishwashers, food preparation sinks, floor drains, and mop sinks. This helps prevent these materials from entering the sewer pipes. All wastewater from food service establishments' kitchens pass through the grease interceptor. Most grease interceptors are somewhat large and can hold around 1,000 gallons of water, grease, and food service byproducts. Most are located outside, but some restaurants may have under-the-sink grease traps. These small traps are not as efficient and may require more time from the restaurant staff to maintain. Let's take a look at how grease interceptors work. The grease interceptor is sized and designed to allow passing wastewater at least a 20-minute retention time. In other words, wastewater entering should stay in the interceptor at least 20 minutes before being discharged. A typical grease interceptor has two chambers or compartments. The inlet portion makes up approximately 2/3 of the total volume, while the effluent portion makes up the remaining 1/3. A vertical baffle wall containing small holes or a slot midway up separates the chambers, allowing wastewater to flow from the first chamber to the second chamber. As the water enters the first chamber, the fog floats to the top while the solid materials sink to the bottom. The perforated baffle wall prevents grease and solids from passing to the second chamber. However, solids and grease do accumulate in the first chamber over time and begin passing into the second chamber. If nothing is done, the materials would end up leaving the interceptor and passing into the sewer system. The sewer pipes would begin to clog. In some situations, the accumulation of fog will completely block the outlet portion of the grease interceptor, which can cause wastewater to back up into the kitchen. The authority requires all grease interceptors to be pumped out by a licensed pumper every 30 days. Pumpers are regulated by the North Carolina Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Pumpers must dispose of the contents of the interceptors properly. The waste can't be put in the trash. It is the food service establishment's responsibility to make sure the pumpers are pumping both sides of the entire contents of the interceptor. It is also the establishment's responsibility to make sure the interceptor is being pumped on time and that the interceptor meets design requirements. During the inspection, the compliance officer will request to see the pumping records for the previous 36 months to ensure that the interceptor is being pumped on schedule. The compliance officer visually looks at the interceptor for structural compliance. If it isn't compliant, the establishment is given a specific time frame in which to bring the interceptor up to code. This is the inlet T and first chamber of the interceptor. Wastewater from the kitchen enters the interceptor on this side. Notice the grease floating on top and being trapped in the chamber. This is the second chamber of the interceptor. Notice that there is not as much floating grease and that the liquid leaving the chamber through the effluent T is practically free of grease or fog. The compliance officer measures the amount of floating grease and solids on the bottom of the interceptor to make sure they do not exceed 20% of the total volume of the interceptor as required in the authority's sewer ordinance. If the grease and solids are more than 20%, the interceptor must be pumped within 10 business days. A common misconception is that grease only comes from fryers. While this is certainly a common source of fog, it is not the only one. Almost all prepared food items have some amount of fat, oil, or grease, and all of these items have the potential to impact our sewer collection system. Most fog enters a facility's plumbing system from warewashing, floor cleaning, and equipment sanitation. The objective is to prevent the food materials and fog from going down the drains in the first place. A good start is to practice the first pass method of dry cleanup. Remove food waste using dry methods such as scraping, wiping, and sweeping before using wet methods. Sweep the floor before mopping. Do not pour used grease down the drain. Recycle it instead. Some companies actually pay for used cooking oil. Install drain screens in the sink drains if your facility doesn't already have them in place. Remind the kitchen staff not to remove the drain screens. The screens collect debris and help prevent food material, paper, and plastic from entering the plumbing system. Use paper towels to wipe work areas. Cloth towels accumulate grease that will end up in the sewer when they are washed. And use food-grade paper to soak up grease under fryer baskets. When finished, dispose of the paper towels in the trash. Never flush them down the toilet. Preventing spills helps keep waste out of the sewer and provides for a safe work area. Avoid spills by emptying trash cans, grease, and food scrap containers before they are full. You play a big part in preventing fog from entering the sewer system. Remember, a clogged sewer will overflow. It can harm the environment and can affect public health. Before leaving your facility, the environmental compliance officer will also be looking to see if there are backflow prevention devices on the domestic, fire protection, and irrigation water supplies. Backflow prevention assemblies keep water from commercial establishments from backflowing into the public water supply in the event that pressure is lost on the main water line. If water was allowed to backflow, there would be a risk of contamination. The officer will request to see the testing records to show that the backflow preventers are being tested annually as required by the authority's ordinance. We live in a wonderful area. Do your part to help keep it that way. Let's work together to keep our waterways and environment safe and clean. Cease the grease and help keep our sewers fat-free. This training video is presented to you by the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority.